Our history textbooks usually give us a big picture of past events, showing important people and significant moments. But in the vast story of the past, there are many fascinating details that don't often make it into regular lessons. This video will reveal 18 such historical facts, inviting you into a world full of strange and interesting situations, delightful surprises, and important but often overlooked insights. We'll explore various time periods and places, discovering things that regular classrooms might not cover, all while making sure our journey through history is suitable for everyone. Little Ice Age's impact on European history during a time often overlooked in history books, called the Little Ice Age, which was from around 1300 to 1850, something significant happened. The weather in Europe and the Northern Hemisphere got much colder. This change had big effects on people's lives and how societies worked. The drop in temperature led to problems with growing regular crops like wheat, so people started growing hardier crops like rye and barley. But this change also meant there wasn't enough food, causing famines and making life harder for many. The cold weather influenced not just farming but also art and literature. Artists and writers were inspired by the icy world around them, creating works that showed the struggle to survive in this harsh climate. Paintings from this time often depicted winter scenes, quite different from the lush landscapes seen in earlier art. The cold even froze major rivers, like the Thames in London, multiple times. People took advantage of this and held events on the frozen river called frost fairs, showing how extreme the weather was. Also, this chilly period made it tough for the Vikings to live in Greenland. Their way of farming couldn't work in such cold conditions, so they had to leave. This shows how much the Little Ice Age affected not just the weather, but also the way people lived and the course of history. Washington's troublesome teeth. George Washington, the very first president of the United States, is usually shown as serious and calm. But what many people don't know is that he had a lot of problems with his teeth. Contrary to what some might think, he didn't have wooden teeth. His dentures were made from various materials like gold, lead, ivory, and even teeth from humans and animals. Washington had dental issues from his 20s, and by the time he became president, he only had one natural tooth left. These problems caused him a lot of pain and changed the way his face looked. It's believed that this discomfort affected his speeches. In fact, his inaugural address, the speech he gave when he became president, is the shortest in US history. His dental troubles also impacted his personal life and how people saw him in politics. He often chose to stay quiet in public, which made others think he was distant or unfriendly. These stories about Washington remind us that even great leaders have to deal with everyday health problems, just like everyone else. The Great Emu War of Australia. If you think wars are only about humans fighting each other, here's a surprising story from Australia in the 1930s, often called the Great Emu War. After World War I, Australia was dealing with a big farming problem, and the unexpected troublemakers were emus, those large flightless birds. Each breeding season, they migrated inland and decided that the newly cultivated lands of Western Australian farmers were perfect for a feast. They ended up causing a lot of damage to the crops. The frustrated farmers, many of whom were ex-soldiers, asked the Australian government for help. In response, the government sent a small military force with machine guns to try to control the emu population. But here's the twist. Those emus were tough and fast, making it a real challenge for the soldiers. People got upset about how the emus were being treated, and the fact that the soldiers weren't successful led to the operation being cancelled. In the end, the government decided to pay people to help manage the emu population, and that turned out to be a more effective solution. The Dancing Plague of 1518. In July 1518, something really strange happened in the city of Strasbourg, which is now a part of France. It's known as the Dancing Plague. It all began with a woman named Frau Trophia. She started dancing wildly in the streets, and for some reason, other people started dancing too. This unusual dancing frenzy quickly spread, and within a month, around 400 citizens were caught up in this strange urge to dance. People couldn't stop dancing for days, and some even collapsed from exhaustion. Sadly, in severe cases, people died. People back then had different ideas about why this was happening. Some thought it was a punishment from God, while others believed it was because of overheated blood. Nowadays, experts think it might have been mass hysteria or a condition called ergotism, caused by eating rye infected with certain fungi. Even though we're not exactly sure why it happened, the dancing plague of 1518 is a bizarre and fascinating example of how people can act in really unusual ways. It shows us how different factors, like biology, the environment, or society, can affect historical events and how people behave. The not-so-glamorous life of pirates. Popular culture often shows pirates as adventurous and daring figures sailing the high seas in search of hidden treasures. But the truth is far less glamorous. Pirates did live by their own rules, but their lives were tough, and they didn't usually live very long. Being on a pirate ship was risky and messy, with little access to fresh food and clean water. Many pirates got sick from scurvy, which comes from not getting enough vitamin C. Besides the health problems, pirates were always in danger of getting hurt or killed in battles, storms, or shipwrecks. What's interesting, though, is that they had their own kind of democracy on board. They elected their captains and quartermasters, which was different from the strict hierarchy on naval and merchant ships. Pirate ships even had a sort of insurance. They'd give compensation to crew members who got injured. So, despite the exciting stories of treasure and exotic adventures, most pirates had a tough life at sea, and it often ended in a violent death or prison. Knowing this gives us a better understanding of what life was like back then and why some people chose such a hard way of life. The inception and suppression of the Gregorian calendar. The calendar that most of the world uses today is called the Gregorian calendar. Pope Gregory XIII introduced it in 1582. He made changes to the older Julian calendar to make the spring equinox fall closer to March 21st, which was the date it was set to during the Council of Nicaea in 325. However, not everyone liked this new calendar. Some countries, especially those that were Catholic, accepted it, but others, like Protestant and Orthodox countries, were suspicious of it, thinking it was a Catholic scheme. Surprisingly, Great Britain and its colonies, including what would become the United States, didn't switch to the Gregorian calendar until 1752. Russia held out even longer, adopting it after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1918. This led to a strange situation where different places were following different dates at the same time. The history of how the Gregorian calendar was accepted is interesting because it shows how scientific progress can get mixed up with religious and political doubts. These doubts can influence how new ideas and systems are welcomed by different communities. Napoleon Bonaparte's height misconception. There's a common belief that Napoleon Bonaparte, the famous French emperor, was really short, but this idea is mostly due to a misunderstanding. People said he was 5 feet 2 inches tall when he died, but they were using French feet, which are longer than English feet. In English measurements, he was about 5 feet 7 inches tall, which was a bit above average height for French men of his time. This mistaken idea about Napoleon's height got even more confusing because British cartoons often made fun of him by exaggerating how short he was. Even though it might seem like a small detail, this common misunderstanding about Napoleon's height reminds us that biases and mistakes can get stuck in our historical stories. The hidden heritage of Mount Rushmore. Before Mount Rushmore became a famous symbol of US presidents, it had a different story. The land was sacred to the Lakota Sioux Native American tribe and was called the Six Grandfathers. In 1868, the US government, in the Treaty of Fort Laramie, recognized the Black Hills, where Mount Rushmore stands, as part of the Great Sioux Reservation. However, when gold was discovered, settlers came rushing in, and the US government didn't honor the treaty. The creation of Mount Rushmore is a controversial topic. It brings attention to the often forgotten stories of indigenous heritage, land rights, and national monuments, showing us how complex and layered history can be. The original purpose of the Great Wall of China people often think of the Great Wall of China as a way to keep invaders like the Mongols out, but its original purpose was more than just defense. Back in the time of Emperor Qin Shi Huang around 221 BC, the wall had a dual role. It was used to regulate trade along the Silk Road. The existing walls were connected to manage the movement of people and goods. Customs posts, set up at guard stations and watchtowers along the wall, collected taxes from traders. So while the wall did serve a military purpose, it also played a vital role in controlling trade. The misunderstood role of Vikings. Vikings. We often imagine Vikings as fierce warriors wearing horned helmets, raiding from the north. But Vikings were much more than this stereotype suggests. Yes, they did raid, but they were also traders, explorers, and settlers. During the Viking Age, which lasted from around 800 to 1050 AD, they explored far and wide, even reaching North America long before Columbus did. Archaeological discoveries have shown us that Viking societies had their own art style and were involved in farming and fishing when they weren't out exploring or trading. Interestingly, the iconic horned helmets we associate with Vikings were actually a creation of 19th century Romanticism. Real Viking helmets, based on archaeological evidence, didn't have horns. The history of ketchup, a common item in households today, didn't start in the United States and didn't even have tomatoes originally. Its beginnings were quite different. The first version came from China and was made of pickled fish and spices. British explorers found it in the 18th century and brought the idea back to Britain. The British version included ingredients like mushrooms, walnuts, and oysters. It wasn't until the early 19th century in America that tomatoes were added, creating the ketchup we recognize now. This interesting culinary journey shows how cultures share and adapt recipes over time. The Library of Alexandria. The Library of Alexandria in ancient Egypt was a remarkable place, one of the largest and most important libraries of its time. It wasn't just a collection of scrolls, it represented knowledge and cultural unity. Established in the 3rd century BCE in Alexandria, Egypt, it became a hub of learning, attracting scholars from all around the Mediterranean. The library housed a vast array of scrolls, possibly ranging from 40,000 to 400,000, covering subjects like philosophy, history, mathematics, and astronomy. This wealth of knowledge turned the library into a center of intellectual progress. Scholars from different backgrounds exchanged ideas, leading to advancements in various fields. However, despite its grandeur, the library met a tragic fate. Throughout history, it faced destructive events, including fires during Julius Caesar's civil war in 48 BCE and potential attacks during religious conflicts. Each incident resulted in the loss of countless irreplaceable scrolls. The exact reasons behind the library's destruction remain debated among historians. What is clear, though, is that the final blow came with the rise of the Christian Roman Empire, leading to the decline of pagan institutions. The loss of the Library of Alexandria and its vast knowledge is a significant cultural tragedy. We can only imagine the precious information that was lost, underscoring the importance of preserving knowledge for future generations. The story of the Library of Alexandria reminds us of our deep thirst for knowledge and the devastating loss humanity can face with the destruction of such invaluable institutions. It serves as a poignant reminder of both the pursuit of knowledge and the irreplaceable intellectual heritage that can be lost. The history of ancient Roman plumbing. The Romans achieved a remarkable feat in engineering through their sophisticated system of aqueducts and plumbing. Although they didn't invent the concept, they perfected it by creating vast networks of lead and stone pipes, sewers, and aqueducts. This plumbing system was incredibly advanced for its time, showcasing the Romans' exceptional engineering skills. The aqueducts, monumental structures, were designed to bring water from distant sources into cities. Rome itself was supplied by 11 aqueducts, providing water for public baths, fountains, and homes. This water supply was not only essential for drinking, but also crucial for maintaining public sanitation. In addition to aqueducts, the Romans constructed extensive sewage systems, including the famous Cloaca Maxima, one of the world's earliest sewage systems. This innovative system drained waste into the Tiber River, significantly improving public health by reducing the spread of diseases through contaminated water. However, despite their advancements, the Romans had a limited understanding of the health risks associated with their sanitation methods. They used lead pipes in their plumbing systems, unaware of the harmful effects of lead poisoning. Some historians even speculate that this widespread use of lead might have played a role in the decline of the Roman Empire. The Roman plumbing system was an early attempt at public works, influencing later developments in urban infrastructure and public health. While it brought benefits like public baths and indoor plumbing, the unintended consequences of using lead pipes serve as a lesson on the potential drawbacks of technological advancements. The invention of the microwave. The invention of the microwave oven is a fascinating story of serendipity in the world of technology. In 1945, Percy Spencer, an engineer at Raytheon, was diligently working on magnetron devices for radar systems, a critical technology during World War II. One day, while he was near these devices, something unusual happened. A candy bar in his pocket melted. This unexpected incident caught his attention and led to an intriguing investigation. It was during World War II when Percy Spencer, an engineer at Raytheon, was deeply engrossed in his work. The company specialized in developing defense and aerospace technologies, and Spencer was focused on radar technology. Raytheon was a leader in producing magnetrons, which are devices that generate high-frequency radio waves, a crucial component in radar systems. One day, while working with these magnetron devices, something peculiar occurred. Spencer realized that the candy bar in his pocket had melted. He attributed this to the exposure to the microwaves produced by the magnetron. This unexpected event piqued his curiosity, leading him to conduct further experiments. Spencer placed popcorn kernels near the magnetron and was amazed as they popped quickly. Then, he tried heating an egg, which ended up exploding in the face of one of his colleagues due to the rapid heating. These experiments confirmed that the microwaves emitted by the magnetron could quickly cook food, laying the foundation for the concept of microwave cooking. This discovery was groundbreaking, and Raytheon recognized its potential. They applied for a patent for the microwave cooking process in 1945. In 1947, the first commercially produced microwave oven, known as the Raider range, was introduced. However, its adoption was initially limited due to its large size and high cost. It was only with subsequent technological improvements that allowed for smaller and more affordable models that the microwave oven became a standard appliance in households worldwide. The microwave oven's origin is a testament to the unforeseen possibilities that can arise from scientific research, highlighting the role of serendipity in innovation. Cleopatra's true roots. Cleopatra VII, the final ruler of Egypt's Ptolemaic kingdom, is often portrayed as a beautiful Egyptian queen. However, she was not of Egyptian descent. Her roots traced back to Macedonian Greek origins. Her ancestry can be linked to Ptolemy I, a general under Alexander the Great, who later became the ruler of Egypt after Alexander's passing. What makes Cleopatra intriguing is her unique approach to her identity. Unlike her predecessors, she embraced Egyptian culture. Cleopatra was known to be the first ruler to learn the Egyptian language. She managed to blend her Hellenistic Greek heritage with Egyptian traditions, showcasing the intricate layers of cultural identity in historical contexts. The unexpected origins of the English language English, now spoken globally, has a fascinating and intricate history. Its roots can be traced back to the 5th and 6th century Germanic tribes, the Angles, Saxons and Jutes, who invaded Britain. This early form was known as Old English or Anglo-Saxon. However, the English we recognize today started to shape up in the late 11th century, following the Norman conquest of England. The Normans introduced Old Norman or Old French, significantly influencing English vocabulary, especially in areas like arts, law, and governance. Over the centuries, English continued to evolve, borrowing words heavily from Latin, Greek, and other languages. The expansion and trade activities of the British Empire further exposed English to various languages worldwide, leading to more borrowing and influence. It's fascinating to note that English, both in its words and grammar, is like a mosaic, made up of different languages. Its evolution showcases that language isn't static. It's a living, evolving entity shaped by historical, cultural, and social interactions across time. Christopher Columbus's geographical misunderstanding. Christopher Columbus is famous for his 1492 voyage, often wrongly credited with discovering the Americas. Columbus believed he could reach Asia by sailing west from Europe, but this was based on miscalculations about the Earth's size. He greatly underestimated its circumference. When Columbus finally arrived in the Caribbean, he thought he had reached the East Indies. This is why the indigenous people he encountered were mistakenly called Indians. The term has stuck around, even though it was an error. It was only during Amerigo Vespucci's explorations that the concept of the New World began to circulate. Columbus's misconception teaches us that even big historical events can come from mistakes. It also shows how these errors, once spread, can shape perceptions and narratives for centuries, as seen in the continued use of the term Indian to describe Native American populations. The misinterpretations of the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty, a powerful symbol of freedom and democracy, is often linked with immigration because of its proximity to Ellis Island, a historic immigrant entry point. However, the statue's original purpose was quite different. It was meant to represent liberty enlightening the world with its torch, symbolizing enlightenment, and holding a tablet with the date of American independence. This magnificent gift came from France to the United States, celebrating the centennial of American independence and the friendship between the two nations. The connection with immigration became more widespread when Emma Lazarus's poem, The New Colossus, was inscribed on the statue's pedestal. The poem characterizes the statue as the Mother of Exiles. This exploration reminds us that our understanding of history can often be influenced by misconceptions, exaggerations, or overlooked details. It's a reminder to approach historical narratives with a discerning eye, recognizing their complexities and layers. History isn't just a static record of the past. It's a dynamic narrative, always open to reinterpretation and re-examination as we continue to learn. May we keep our curiosity and open-mindedness to cultivate a deeper appreciation of our shared past. Thanks for watching the video, and if you found it informative, please like and subscribe to Time Capsule for similar content. We look forward to sharing more knowledge with you in the future. Until then, take care.